It's an absolute pleasure to welcome Jerry Gill to the From the Club podcast. Jerry, tell us everything we need to know about you in 60 seconds.
Jeez, wow, that's a difficult one. Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me on first and foremost, mate. Really good to see you again. After seeing you at Twerton Park last year, which was a pleasure to have you down watching the game.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, really. I mean, I suppose football's been my life. I mean, you'll get this off a lot of managers, a lot of players, but really, I've given pretty much all my life to football from a very young age. So, yeah, West Country lad, brought up in the West Country. Never had the pleasure of going through an academy or anything like that. Did go to Leighton Orient age 17, didn't really settle in the East End of London. Tough one for a West Country boy from a little sleepy village going in there. Good experience, good life experience. And then came out, went through the non-league circuit through, Weston-super-Mare and Bath, obviously. Got a promotion at Weston and then played, 200 plus games for Bath City Football Club. Got a big move in the 90s, late 90s to Yeovil Town, which is like going from Villa to Birmingham, mate. A no-no. In the West Country, you just don't do that. I'm unsure whether any of our fans still forgive me for that really now. And then I had my best year in football. I was 26 years of age, scored 16 goals under Graham Roberts at Yeovil, got on the England non-league team, and then got a huge move to the Championship to Birmingham City. Trevor Francis signed me, God rest his soul, at the age of 27, going to become a pro at 27 is quite an unusual thing. And then went on to have a 14-year career, then 5 great years there at Birmingham in the Championship, getting promoted to the Premier League. Northampton, cruciate injury, then going to Cheltenham, 210 games for Cheltenham at the age of 32 through to 39, and then finished off at Forest Green. So, it's been a long old career, but a really different and unusual career as well, Dave.
Yeah, oh mate, well, what a story, and I'm looking forward to unpacking many of those bits of your career during our time together this morning, Jerry. Thank you. Many people will know you as a bit of a Bath City legend, having played 200 games and now entering your 7th year as manager. What does this club mean to you, Jerry?
Well, nearly 12 years of my life, Dave, is a big amount of your life, So, people forget, actually, the younger generation, forget I played there. And like you say, 200 odd games, 5 years, and then to give over 6 years now as a manager, it's right in my blood. It's a club that I always thought one day I'd probably come back in some capacity. You have those feelings as a player, and obviously being a local lad down this way in the West Country, the way my life panned out, it ended up that I became manager, and I love it. We've had 3 playoffs in 6 years. We're craving an FA Cup run. It's something I haven't been able to deliver for the club yet, and it's something we really want. The fans want that. That as a fan, it's one thing fans really look forward to is FA Cup runs. We haven't done that, so we're going to try our hardest to try and produce that if we can, but also try and get it to the next level. We know how competitive it is. It's a part-time non-league club still, even though it's a big club in the league on face value. We haven't got the biggest budget in the world. We haven't got the smallest. We're probably mid-table with that. We haven't got a hybrid program. We're not full-time, but we do the best we can with what we've got. And it's a really, really good people to work for. Great club, great support, averaging now over 1,500 at Twerton Park every Saturday. It's a phenomenal club, and I'm really proud to have played such a big part in my time there, along with all my staff and players we've had over those 6 years.
And of course, you do all that whilst playing really good football as well, Jerry, don't you? Anybody that's seen you guys play, you guys like to play football, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we slight tweak on that where we were really excited. I mean, last year's probably my most enjoyable as a manager on the sideline watching us. I really got excited. It got my bum off the seat. My bum's off the seat for 90 odd minutes. As you know, I don't often sit down, but no, a lot of comments coming back. A lot of feedback was how excited we were last year. We do play a lot of football, but we've got a little theory around it where we get in the final third, and if we can't go down one side, we'll get a switcher play quick, and we'll get lots and lots of crosses. I think we're the third best in the league on the stats of crosses in the box. Tells you what sort of side we are. We were top in counter attacks, so we sit there in a mid block. We don't particularly go after them in a high press at times. We don't go into a low block. We sit where we are, and then we're really proactive when we get the ball back. So yeah, we try and encourage our players to be creative. We try and encourage them to express themselves. We've got some really good players in that fold that do that. And if they do that for us and it's successful with us, I don't mind the fact they want to progress. As you know, we've sold now with Jordan Dyer going in the summer. I think that's 8 players in 6 years I've sold, bringing over £90,000 to the football club. So
Wow, yeah, so
We know
good.
where that type of club is. Well, we may be like one of those clubs, in the Premier, like a Crystal Palace now. If you look at them now, they're going to end up losing Gay, aren't they? They're going to lose Eze, probably. Just lost a lad across to Germany. So we know we're that type of club, possibly, that if players do well for us, they will get a move, and that's okay as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Brilliant stuff, Jerry. Well, let's go back to the beginning. How
Yeah.
did your career in football start?
Well, a sleepy little village called Clavering. Yeah, Clavering United. There was as a lot of players will have stories. Good old boy called Glyn Vaughan, who's obviously passed on now, who was a referee, local referee, but set up a village team. We were just a village team. We weren't very good. We used to lose 8-0, 10-0 in the Woodspring League on a Saturday. And I stayed as long as I could in that, but obviously people spot you, and I ended up then going into a Bristol League, went into the Bristol League, and then once you go into a City League, you get highlighted a little bit more. So I played for a team called Fair Furlong and then Avon Athletic. And I ended up playing for Parkway, which was Bristol Rovers' youth team back in the day. Just sort of as a guest player, really. I'd end up going there and playing, and we went on tour to Germany. I was part of that tour that went across to Germany as well. So, which didn't end too well. That's a different story. We ended up in prison, actually. So it's not the best of stories. In the late 80s, it all ended a little bit badly for us over there. But yeah, so that was my career really. And then I was a real late developer. I always knew physically, and even as a person, people find it hard to believe. I was quite a shy lad at school. And football's such a good thing socially to bring people out and develop people as a person, as a human being. And it's certainly done that with me. And I was playing Beezer Homes League then at 16 years of age, which was like playing the level we are now at Bath City. And that makes you grow up so quickly for Trowbridge Town. And that was probably one of the best experiences for me, because if I'd gone into an academy, I wouldn't have developed as quick as what I did then as a man. So, and then I get a move to Leyton Orient, as I said. Frank Clark signed me at Leyton Orient as a 17-year-old, as a first-year pro. I skipped out that youth team sort of phase, but never really settled, Dave, in London. It wasn't for me. I was in a council flat with a lovely old girl called Ivy English. I remember her name to this day. She looked after me so well. No heating in the flat, ice on the windows when you wake up in the morning. But she was a lovely lady. And like I say, I grew up fast over there, and then I come back and started my non-league career back in the West Country.
Yeah. How aware were you at the time? Did you know that you were being scouted by Leyton Orient? And did that add any pressure to your game, knowing that there were people looking at you?
Well, even at a young age, I was captain in the Somerset county side at under 18s as well. So people watch the county games as well, and then obviously Bristol schools and things like that. So yeah, there's always scouts there watching. I was aware of it. I've even in my scrapbook now, Dave, I've got letters. I got one interesting one from Graham Taylor where Aston Villa were watching me, and he wrote a lovely letter saying, unfortunately, he didn't think I was at the level at the time, but a written letter from Graham Taylor, and a signed letter doesn't go on now, those sort of things. So I was
Yeah.
aware there was a lot of interest going around. And then Frank Clark, there's a guy called Ken Knighton, who was manager at Trowbridge Town, had links with Frank and John Eleanor, another guy who was over there. And yeah, all of a sudden I'm on trial in London at Leyton Orient. So obviously did well in the trials to get offered an 18-month pro contract. But it was more about me not settling there really as a person.
Yeah.
I couldn't produce my best football. I was homesick. And I needed to come back. But again, I'd say to players, all these experiences are good experiences. If you don't go through them, as you know, there's many lows in football. There's not that many highs. And that helped me develop as a person. I came back and started my life back in the West Country again.
Yeah. Well, anyone that knows you will know that you're a very enthusiastic person by nature. So being at a club and not playing, that must have been very frustrating for you, Jerry. And how has that experience also helped you as a manager, having to obviously manage a larger squad of players and then leaving players out each week?
Yeah, I mean, trying to spot in an individual when they're not happy more than anything. Players come in, we've all got a front. Everyone in life's got a front. When you close the door, life's not easy, is it? There's always bits that people struggle with, whether that's family stuff, financial stuff, whatever it may be. There's difficult things that go on in people's lives. So people probably wouldn't have guessed that I was struggling. I was really struggling mentally at Leyton Orient. I felt as if I was bullied at times up there. We had some coaches, obviously not to name, but there was coaches there at the time that seemed to pick on me because I was from the West Country. I was a younger lad, and no one really got hold of me up there because psychology wasn't really a thing, and support in football clubs weren't really a thing. So it was either sink or swim. And I was finding it so hard. Obviously, I had some good friends up there, Hakan Haretin, who I've come across in my non-league career, obviously as a manager at Dulwich and the like. He was a good friend of mine up there, and Danny Carter, Kevin Nugent. There were some good people there, as in teammates, but no one as a staff member recognised I was struggling. So I sort of guess that really. I see in people, I try to see in people when they're going through a tough time. I've got a player at the moment that is going through a bit of a tough time. So I take that as an experience, really. And leaving players out on a Saturday, Dave, or a Tuesday is never, whatever manager says he enjoys that, is a funny old guy, because that's something I find so tough even to this day. Sitting someone down and telling them they're not playing. But as long as you're honest and there's a rationale behind it, I think that's all you can be. Sometimes we haven't got time to tell them if we turn up and it's a Tuesday night and we haven't trained, obviously, because we're not full time. But we try as much as we can, let the players know and give them a rationale around it.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, like we said at the beginning, it was Bath City where your career really got going, having spent 6 years at the club as a player. As you look back at those years, what are some of your happiest memories during that time, Jerry?
Well, it's a wonderful stadium first and foremost. Whoever's been there, you've been there. It's one of these old school, traditional, old-fashioned stadiums with terracing. The floodlights are the old school floodlights, the huge ones. When you come into Bath, first thing you see is them. You come into Twerton. Um, we had some great times. FA Cup runs, ironically, as a player. So, we played Hereford at home live on Sky Sports in front of about 4,500, 5,000 at Twerton, which we couldn't get in there now for safety reasons. But beating them at home, we then go away to Stoke City, Joe Jordan's Stoke City at the Victoria Ground, and draw 0-0 up there with people like Dave Regis playing up front, Toddy Orgleson playing for Stoke. Another one, we go to Cardiff. Cardiff are top, I think, of Division 2, the old Division 2 back in the day. Haven't lost a game all season. We go over there and win 3-2 on a real wet and windy Saturday. So, yeah, some really, really good memories and a really good team spirit. We had such a good group. The lads were there for the right reasons. We fought hard for each other. A real tough league. GM Vauxhall Conference was a tough league back in those days. We got to the dizzy heights of fourth at one stage. But yeah, some really good memories, and mostly, as I said, those are FA Cup runs. So that's what I want to try to give back if we can to the fans. We want to
Yeah,
try and give them an FA Cup run if we can.
yeah. In preparation for today, I've been listening to a couple of other interviews that you've done over the years, and I'm pretty sure I remember you saying that you were actually tapped up for your move to Yeovil whilst on the
Yeah.
pitch playing at a corner. Is that actually true?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Graham Roberts. It was his birthday the other day, so everyone remembers Graham, tough tackling centre back from Tottenham, Rangers as well, and obviously he does a lot with the former players now at Tottenham Hotspur. Great guy. Yeah, Bath City. We played Yeovil in the FA Trophy down at which is now the Hewish Park. First time it had been built, we'd gone down there. Yeah, corner, which I think is 2-2. Corner's about to come over, and Graham grabs me, literally grabs me, and says, "Oi, do you fancy it here next year?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. Can we talk afterwards, please?" Got a corner coming in. So yeah, that was the start of it, really, and that probably was the turning point in my career, Dave, as well. Going there, I went there for 9,500 in 1996, 95, 96. And like I said, we won the league. We beat Enfield. It was crowds of over, when we played Enfield, top of the table class, near on 8,500 at Hewish Park, 1,000 locked out up trees. I scored 16 goals, played centre midfield. I was just in one of those moods where I was happy, I had a good job. I woke up, players that know when they're in form or on top of their game will feel this. I woke up every week knowing I was going to score. I had this real confidence about me, real out of confidence. I was fit. I prided myself on being the fittest I possibly could. That's what made my career. I wasn't the most talented player in the world, but I made sure I give myself the best chance. And that season was unbelievable. Like I said, I had the pleasure of wearing an England shirt against Republic of Ireland in Dublin. To hear the national anthem at any level, even now when I listen to the Euros, it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and you remember back to the days when you represent your country. And of course, then I get my move to Birmingham City as well.
Yeah, I want to talk about your England C cap in a few moments, but before we do that, I mean, you've mentioned scoring goals, Jerry, and obviously as a fan, you know how much we love our team scoring goals. There's no feeling like it, but for you actually being the goal scorer, what does that feeling feel like for you actually on the pitch? And how would you describe that?
We'll have to think back long and hard on this one, Dave, because I dried up after my Yeovil days. You've probably seen me cry. I never scored after that. Yeah, so I did get converted back to a right back though. I have to say that. But
Yeah.
no, listen, it is the best feeling in the world. I took a lot of pride in stopping my winger. Actually, went in the later days, and fullbacks don't do that so much. And I stopped crosses coming in the box and trying to keep clean sheets, being part of a team, and really helping a team to win on a Saturday. But back in that day at Yeovil, it was literally helping a team to win by scoring goals. Like I said, I knew from, and I tell people this all the time, I thought I was the fittest player every time I played than any opponent. So I would literally say I must have been horrible to play against, because I used to say to an opponent from about 75 minutes, you're not going to catch me because I'm gone again. And I just kept running. And all I did was arrive in the box late. And most of my goals for Yeovil were like 70 minutes through to 90, purely on fitness. Obviously, you've got to have a technique when you get there. I'll probably do myself a bit of an injustice there, because I did score some good goals and I scored the goal of the season at Yeovil that year. But most of the time it was my fitness and the fact that I knew I could time my runs. If I timed my runs well in the box, I'd have a great chance of scoring. And yeah, that celebration, that feeling when a goal goes in, there's no better feeling than that in football, is there?
Yeah, and you're one of the few that's obviously then experienced that feeling as a manager as well. And again, you know, what's that feeling like? You set your starting 11, you send them out, and then to that feeling of winning the game. How do you describe that emotion, Jerry?
Oh, well, that it comes very close. It's not the same. I have to say that it's totally different. It's not the same, but for myself and my staff on the side, there's no better feeling than preparing a team in the week. And we don't get long. Like I said, we only get a Tuesday and a Thursday. But to set up a game plan and give them an analysis session and make sure that they've got to worry about when they go out there is that ball, and then think about if it does change tactically, can we try and tweak it on the side? But really, we can't do too much because it's up to them then. And this is why it's so important. You have to have players that can be sponges and take in the information and learn and try and adapt and change things on the pitch there and live. We can do things at half time. Like I said, it's a little bit difficult during a game, but we can try and get messages on. But no better feeling than setting up against a team that's 3-4-3, and we might have gone 4-3-3, and we're saying we're going to go really aggressive against some presser back three. See if we can get the better of them, play cat and mouse. We might have to drop into a back 4 and a 5 at times. But when you get that win, and it's often the late wins that are good. I love 1-0 wins me. I think there's no better feeling than a 1-0 win, keeping a clean sheet. We kept a lot of clean sheets last season. We did a lot of work around that. So yeah, we want to entertain, as I said, but we don't want to concede too many goals if we can help it. But the whole feeling for the whole squad, I think when you go away, especially when you jump back on that coach and you've got that feeling back on the coach when the music's on, and we'll have a few beers on the way home and we're having a good old sing along. We bring the box on. There's no better feeling than that. That's the bit in football that is really hard to replace, I think, is that camaraderie, that spirit, that feeling. And winning, of course, makes it better.
Yeah. And what's it like emotionally in terms of recovering from that? I mean, obviously, you know, we're talking about the highs of winning games, but obviously the flip side to that is the lows of obviously losing the game as well as a manager. What's that sort of process like for you after a game? I mean, on a Saturday night or on a Tuesday evening, you know, is it easy to come down after a game?
No, it's the hardest thing ever. I'm not going to lie. I've got better at it. I mean, from the outset, I get really emotional, and I'd use too much emotion in games. I'm trying to work at that still. You're still trying to. The hardest thing is when decisions go against you. But the more I'm in it, the more I'm learning on that front, and I try and hold back a little bit because you don't really get anything from it. You're just using up energy you don't want to be, and it probably has a negative impact on your team and your players at times as well. So wasn't great at that from the outset, but now I think I've got a lot better. I think about it now. We played a behind closed doors game on Saturday, our first preseason game against the Championship side, and I'm sat on the coach quiet on the way back, reflecting on the game and thinking about it and going, "God, how we conceded that." But you have to have a bit of reality in it. You're playing a Championship side, so on a Saturday after a league game, of course there'll be a reflection period. And even when you win, I hear managers talk about it all the time, and it's so true. Even when you win, you give yourself probably half an hour, and then we're thinking about the bloody next one. So that's the nature of the beast. You really are. I find myself like that on a coach on a Saturday or here. I try now to give myself a Sunday where I try and switch off from it, Dave, as much as I possibly can, because it's no good for your mental health if you're consumed by it all the time. And we know we are. That's a manager's life. I've been away to Rhodes on holiday, and it's you sat there on the sunbed trying not to think about it, but you do. And that's just us, as I said from the very outset. I've given football my whole life, and football's given me such a wonderful thing back. I don't think it's ever going to go away. I don't think I can switch off ever from football. Whatever I may be doing in the future, wherever I am, I think I'll always be thinking football. So it's a thing I have to keep working on it constantly. But I have to have clarity in the end, because your team needs you, your staff need you. I need my staff around me to help me, and they're brilliant. And in the end, we move on to the next one and enjoy it as much as we can. But there's always another game around the corner.
Yeah, love it, mate. Love it. It's so good, Jerry. Thank you for sharing that. Before we started talking about the emotions of the game, we touched on your England C cap, and obviously it was your performances at Yeovil that got you the attention.
Mm.
What do you remember about the game? How did you first hear that you was in the team? How do they sort of communicate that to you? And what was that whole experience like for you, Jerry?
Yeah, Graham called me, so the club got a phone call, and he informed me that I'd been chosen to go and represent your country. As you can imagine, that feeling unbelievable. Um, first thing is I call my dad. My dad's been a constant in my life, in my football, where he hasn't missed a game I've played or managed. Even now, he's 83 years of age. You're talking about going to Aveley tonight, and he'll go to Aveley, he'll go to Maidstone midweek, he'll go all around the country with me. And he'll travel separately, independently. He won't come on the coach, and he'll be sat there and he'll watch a game. So, really pleased for Dad first and foremost. He was absolutely delighted and buzzing. And the physio at the time, Terry Hardwell, who's God rest his soul, passed on now, was a good friend of my dad as well, and he'd followed my career a lot. He'd done a lot of my stuff, my scrapbooks, and he was delighted he was going to come out as well. So, and some representation from Yeovil as well. Of course, directors came out. So yeah, it was surreal, really. Suddenly when you post, and you do literally get this in the post. I'd gone away and done training camps and things, and I think I did 3 sessions. It was like almost like a trial. You did like regional stuff first and foremost. You do some regional stuff, then you get invited across, and then you have a training day, and then you get through the post. Just keeps arriving some packages, and it's like your England jumper, your England tie,
Oh wow.
your
Yeah.
England tracksuit. So you're pulling that out with the 3 lions on. You're like, wow. So yeah, you have to wear your trousers and a white shirt, England tie, and a jumper with the England badge on to meet at the airport. That feeling when you're walking into an airport and you've got your England stuff on is just crazy, really. And then we fly out, and of course you got the best of the best. The training grounds are great, the facilities are great, and the game itself. If I'm being totally honest, don't remember too much about the game. I remember it being a foggy old night. It wasn't a great night over in Dublin. But like I said, I was up against a really tricky winger. I remember the people talking about it, and I thought, right, I'm going to have to smash him early, like I used to back in the old day. I'm going to have to put one on him to let him know he's in the game. But yeah, loved every minute of it. Loved the game.
Yeah.
Loved afterwards sharing it with my dad, obviously, and Terry and some of the staff from Yeovil. And a lovely story, actually. So yeah, we this was Graham Roberts through and through. So I was about to fly back, and I got a phone call from him, and he said, "Well done, son. Congratulations." And I think I was in the airport in Dublin. And he said, "You do realise we've got a game against Bolton Rovers in the Somerset Premier Cup tonight, don't you?" And I was like, I was aware of it, obviously, local cup. I said, "Yeah, Gaffer, yeah, I'll be back. I'm flying back." I said, "So what do you want me to meet Saturday?" He said, "No, you'll be at the game. You're in the squad." So I said, "Well, I'm going to be tight on time." He said, "That's okay." So anyway, I get back to London, obviously early hours, come driving back. I'm in my England kit, so I'm thinking, oh God, if I turn up, the lads, you know what it's like football, I'm going to get destroyed here. I'm going to get hammered for being big time, wearing the England stuff. I haven't got my Yeovil tracksuit on. So I turn up at Bolton Rovers, which is local to Bath. Turn up in I go, get destroyed by the lads because I'm in my England kit. Graham Roberts just sort of says hello, just nothing, out it go, sit down. Names the team, I'm sub. So he puts me sub in the Somerset Cup. Go out. The game's about to start. I'm walking round to the dugouts. I sit down. He says, "Go and get me a cup of tea." So I have to walk all the way back round again, get a cup of tea for him, and walk back. But this was Graham's way of bringing me back down to earth. This
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
this was right, son. Not that I was like that at all. I'd never be that type of person. I think you know me. And but yeah, it was a bump back down to earth. So one minute I'm representing your country, next minute I'm playing against Bolton Rovers in the Somerset Cup, substitute, having to go and get the gaffer a cup of tea and looking really humiliated by it all. But I knew why I did it, and I held no grudge in it. He's a great man. I speak to him still now. I wished him a happy birthday the other day. He's going to come and watch us this year. And yeah, lovely story off the back of it, really.
Yeah, so good. I mean, I know you like to collect little bits and pieces. You mentioned your scrapbooks. Was you
Mm.
able to keep hold of any of that England stuff? Did you keep your shirt?
Got it all.
Did you
Got it
get
all. Got it all. Yeah, I've got
really
it all, Dave.
amazing?
I've got my England shirt here. I've got my England tie, my England jumper still. I've got the pennant actually from the game. So I've got the pennant
Right.
from Republic of Ireland. Um, so yeah, I kept nearly all of it. Had to. It's yeah, it's memories for. I've got two boys. It's memory for my two boys as well. So it's something to look back and go, well, actually, Dad did all right once upon a time. He was
Yeah,
pretty good.
yeah,
Um, but like most managers will say who've had careers now, a lot of our stuff, and you've been kind enough to do some wonderful stuff for me. Some of my memories that I've got on my wall here in my office, and unfortunately, a lot of managers' playing careers are in boxes, and we don't talk about it too much. But I think it does us a lot of good if we do talk about it and reflect sometimes
yeah,
and things
definitely.
like this, because you should be proud of what you've done. Like I said, I'm not the only manager or person in the world to give football everything I've got my whole life. I made a lot of sacrifices, and if I didn't, on a personal level, my marriage suffered because of it. I lost a lot of friendships because of it. In a younger sort of stage in my career, because I wouldn't go out on a Friday night. That wasn't me. Um, and I've been very selfish, and you have to be as a football player, because if you want to make it and dedicate yourself, and of course, me making it so late, there were so many people saying, well, that's it, you've had your time, you're not going to get an opportunity. But I still believed it was a weird thing. I still believed deep down, I know it's easy to say now, that I'd get a career in football. And
Yeah,
and like I said, as its downfalls, of course, and a lot of stuff and a lot of regrets, was I the best dad in the world? Was I the best husband? Probably not. But I make up for it now as much as I possibly can.
yeah,
That's just me being true. And to talk about this and have some memories and have a little look on the wall every now and again makes you feel good about yourself.
yeah, for sure, Jerry, for sure. Having waited patiently for your opportunity to play professional football, Championship side, Birmingham City came knocking when you were 26 years old. Did you say 27 earlier? Was it 27?
Yeah, 26, 27. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's 26. I was 27 when I made my debut for Birmingham City.
Was you? Yeah,
Um, it took it took a long while to settle, Dave. There, as you can appreciate, going from like our level now, National League
yeah,
South to the Championship is a huge thing. I was fit, but by golly, there were some fit players there. I was just off the back of Barry Fry's spell when there was about 50 players there,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Trevor Francis signed me. I've got a guy to sign me from non-league football to take a chance on me at 27. I had such a good relationship even up until when he passed away. Wonderful man, lot to thank him for, obviously. Um, Mick Mills as part of his staff, England captain and fullback. How good's that? Jim Barron, who's my assistant now, as you know, 81
yeah,
years of age, still going strong as my assistant, was at part of the staff. Ian Bowyer, European Cup winner with Nottingham Forest. What a staff. So, yeah, I went in there. It took me a good 9 months to even settle to get up to the level. There's players like Anders Limpar there, for God's sake, playing in the reserves.
yeah, yeah,
Phenomenal. Um, but I had such a good rapport with the fans there that, I've got the proclaimed, Jerry shout from the Jerry Springer that used to ring around St
yeah,
Andrews that made me feel amazing. I knew if I put that first tackle in, it'd get them up and you'd get that shout. And because I gave all for the shirt, the Blue Noses took me to their hearts. And likewise, I became an adopted Brummie. I moved obviously to the area. At the time, I married a girl from Solihull, and like I said, my two boys and my wife were separated now, live up there as well. So we've got a wonderful relationship still. All of us. I was up there yesterday with my two boys watching my youngest Oscar play golf. He plays for the county, and my eldest Morley. Both keen footballers, both good golfers. So yeah, I had a wonderful time up there and made some really good friends. A lot of Blue Noses I still speak to as well. Great teammates. I saw one on Saturday, Darren Purse, who's now 21's manager at
yeah,
Cardiff
yeah.
City. So yeah, it was a great time for me. Ironically, I played in all the big games for Birmingham City. Trevor always trusted me in the big games. I play. My last game was at Anfield, as you know. I've played at White Hart Lane. I've played at Crystal Palace. I've played all over the place for them. And thankfully got promotion to the Premier League in the last year under Steve Bruce, who I made my debut alongside as well. So if you're going to make a debut, what a
Oh
guy to
yeah.
have beside you is Steve Bruce, who talked me through the whole game, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about him because I mean, obviously his career, unbelievable. You know, if you was looking for sort of older people to look up to at your time, at Steve Bruce, what a mentor to have. You know, having won everything at Manchester United beforehand. What was he like as a man on and off a pitch?
Cool. Exactly that. He was a man. He was a man. He was, I mean, even when I left the football club, he pulled me to one side. He said, look, you're 32 years of age. You'll probably play 10 games maybe in the Premier League, come off the bench, whatever it may be. But I'll help you if you want to go and play football. And I felt I made the decision then I wanted to go and play regular football. That's why I went to Northampton. But Steve, first and foremost, the day I made my debut, I mean, I was in awe of the guy. I'll be honest. I couldn't hardly bloody look at him, let alone talk to him when I first went to Birmingham City because non-league player going in, and I'm now faced with the Man United captain. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, he was phenomenal. On my debut alone, pulled me to one side and said, "This was a funny story." Pulled me to one side and he said, "Look, Jerry, congratulations. You totally deserve this." I was playing against Mark Walters for Swindon. So as you know, tricky winger again. I'm thinking, right, I'm going to have to nail him.
yeah.
Themes coming along here. We won the game, thankfully, 2-0. Had a good game. But before the game, he pulled me to one side. And Steve at the time was, I don't know if you remember him in his days for Birmingham City. He wasn't blessed with the best pace in the world, but he read the game so well.
Yeah,
And one thing he
yeah,
didn't want to do was be spun in behind. So he pulled me before the game and he said, "Congratulations, Jerry." He said, "All I'm going to say, you leave my effing side once this afternoon, you're going to know about it." He said, "Because anything that goes in behind me, you're chasing." He said, "Don't worry about anything in front." And he did literally. He'd bring everything down his chest. He'd ping balls left, right, and centre. But the way he spoke to me and communicated through that game, there's no better mentor, or like you say, Gary Ablett, God rest his soul as well, was the other centre back
yeah.
player. So great players to play alongside and learn from. And like I said, he went on to be my manager in the end. And we'll get
Wow.
onto the Northampton bit in a minute when he called me after that because I snapped my cruise shut. I'll tell you about that when we get onto the Northampton
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah,
But a wonderful human being, wonderful man manager, would tell you as he sees it. You know, I got a lot of rollickings off him at times, but that was him. That was how it was. But he knew where he stood. But I learned a
yeah,
lot from him as well. Great guy.
yeah. Well, you played in an era when the big brand endorsements were not as common as they are today.
Yeah.
But I understand that you went ahead anyway and got yourself an unofficial partnership with Adidas. Tell us about that, Jerry.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was from the Bath City days. Really, it's very cringy, Dave. So back in the day, I wanted a tattoo. I don't know why. I just felt like I wanted one. I was with one of my friends, Julian Dix's brother, Grantley, and he played for Bath City. And we'd gone out and had a few beers on an afternoon, like you do in the summer. And he said, "I'm going to get a tattoo." I said, "Well, I'll get one with you, mate. Why not?" So he went in, and Grantley's had a pair of football boots hanging off a wall, and you think that's bad, on his back. So it's like the boot room on his back. And I haven't got a clue. I don't know what I want. I'm thinking to myself, I haven't got a clue. And all I ever wore back in the day was Adidas before I got any boot deal or whatever. I've looked at it and he's got a cap on. And it's the old Adidas sign.
Yeah.
I said, "I love that." So I've ended up getting an Adidas tattoo on my arm. Off the back of that, I've had a few photographs taken. And then I get an old boy called Fred, who to this day still supplies me with some boots. Constantly was getting boots sent through from Adidas because of it. Thankfully, I've had it gone over now, mate, because there was a point in my life where I went to Thailand and I walked across the beach, and at the
Yeah.
time I was with Vicky, and these young lads started laughing at my arm. So I thought, right, this is it. It needs to go. It needs to go. So that's gone. But yeah, I got a boot deal out of it, Dave. Anyway, got a boot deal out of it.
That's incredible, mate. I tell you what, Jerry, I'm so pleased that you've told this story because when I was about 18 years old, me and a group of mates went to a local tattoo shop in Sidcup. And the plan was, as we set off, I was going to get the Ralph Lauren logo, you know, the man on the
Yeah,
horse
yeah,
on my
yeah.
chest. But thankfully, that tattoo shop was closed that day.
Good man.
So,
That's well, you got lucky there, mate. You got lucky. Although you might have a load of Ralph Lauren gear now, mate. So you never know.
that's true, mate. That's very true. With Jerry, during those 5 years at Birmingham, you were there during one of the most exciting periods in the club's history, promotion to the Premier League and a great cup run. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that year was phenomenal. 2000, good and bad at the end of it. So yeah, listen, we were playing in front of 25, 26,000 every single week at St
Yeah,
Andrews, and anyone who's been there, it's a working class club. Um, the anthem "Keep Right On" is one of the best anthems in English football, and one I know word by word, and one that again, whenever I hear it now, still it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. We had an unbelievable World Cup run, as you know, and it ended with a cup final. Unfortunately for us all, Wembley was being built at the time, and I got unlucky twice for that. I played, twice or played once, and then obviously we'll get onto this one against Liverpool, and both times we're at the Millennium. Even though it was a wonderful atmosphere, really enclosed and on top of you, the Millennium, and it was on both occasions I went there, but it wasn't Wembley. But anyway, we end up playing in some really big games. You say we play West Ham, we play Newcastle United at home. We end up playing Sheffield Wednesday. Then we get Ipswich in the semi-final, home and away. And that second leg at home, we're 1-0 down from the first leg, and it was a real tough pitch. The pitch was awful at St Andrews at the time. If you see any footage of it, awful. And they're in the Premier League, don't forget, at the time, Ipswich. So they're Premier League, we're Championship. We knew that night as lads, we knew we could do it. The place, we stood in that tunnel before we came out. Literally, the place was shaking. And I think all the Blue Noses now just say it's the best atmosphere they've ever felt there. Even the Premier League years. I walked out there, it was deafening. It was literally deafening. And the adrenaline in your body that came through that night just got you through the whole game. We end up winning the game, and obviously going through, scored 4 goals on the night. The infamous Richard Wright, that he misses the kick and Andy Johnson goes through and scores. I clear one off the line, or they're 1-0 up. I clear one off the line after 8 minutes to stop them going 2-0 up as well. So there's a bit of part I play in that. But what a team performance. The pitch got swamped after the 4th goal went in. Players being lifted in the air. It was dreams come true. And I'll never, ever forget that night. That is a game that, thinking back to 8-10-year-old Jerry Gill, I never dreamt I'd get a night like that in my football career ever. And of course, after that, we're playing some really big games in the league as well. The unfortunate thing for me is we get to the final and Trevor leaves me out. I play every round. We go down on the Thursday and we're up training at the Saint Pierre Golf Club. And Blues fans just swarm it, and we have to move the last day because we couldn't get any sleep. It was too busy. So we go to another hotel. Shape was different. I was in the Shape, I was out the Shape, but he never really named the team. We didn't know. So we spent 3 days down there. The cup finals on the Sunday. I've got 80 people coming across from the West Country, obviously, thinking I'm going to play. Yeah. And it's 80,000 in at Millennium. And we're about to get on the coach to come to the stadium, and he tells me I'm not playing. And more to that, I wasn't even on the bench. So, Blue Noses talk about it all the time. It's the biggest thing they talk to me about. What the hell did you do? What happened with you and Trevor? And the honest answer is nothing. He just decided that he wanted to bring John McCarthy back in, who'd had a broken leg and wasn't really fit. He played and started. It was always me and Nicky Eden playing on that right, so we dovetailed each other through the whole cup run and in the league. And and David Holdsworth again had been ill, I think, or had an injury, and he ended up going on the bench, and I wasn't even on the bench. So, that was a real low point in my career. I was on the pitch. I can remember I've got pictures of it now. You look at me, I'm just like a ghost. You can see I'm there, but I'm not there. And a real difficult day for me. Hard day, hard to enjoy it. The national anthem there, I didn't really enjoy. I wasn't really there. It wasn't my moment. Part of the team, obviously, I'm on the bench and everything in regards of being there in my suit, but a real difficult one. And ironically, week after we end up playing Crystal Palace away in the league, and he puts me straight back in. So just one of those things in football. I won't ever hold a grudge against him, like I said, because this is someone who took me from non-league football and gave me some of my best memories I'll ever have. And we had a really good relationship after that. I went across and seen him at his house with his wife, Helen, in Marbella and things like that. So, it's just one of those things in football. And like I said to you from the outset, there's a lot of highs, but you do get a lot of lows in football. And that was one of my lows. Yeah. Thankfully, we'll talk about that in a minute. Cheltenham, I got to go back there again and play as a 36-year-old, which was wonderful.
Yeah. Anyone that knows you knows that you're such a lovely bloke and super positive. And I know Trevor Francis really appreciated your attitude as well. Yeah. Because you was so positive and so nice, do you think that helped him make that decision? Do you think it
Totally, Dave. You hit the nail on the head. I never upset. I would never go and upset the apple cart. I was really grateful for having a football career. I was really respectful of any manager or any coach decided that if I didn't want to play me, then so be it. I wasn't really one in those days to go and knock the door down. I wish I was. I wish I was one that would probably go and challenge a little bit more. Gary Rowett, who was my competition in the time at Birmingham City, gone on record actually and said it in an interview that if Jerry had been a bit more front foot in regard of knocking on the door or telling Trevor that he should be playing, I probably would have played a bit more than what I did even at Birmingham City. So, but that just wasn't me, Dave. It wasn't my character at all. I just got on with it. And I always thought that if he'd left me out, I'd roll my sleeves up and I'd work even harder. And that was my attitude to it,
Yeah.
rightly or wrongly. And I take that to midday now. If things aren't going right, I just work it a little bit harder. And it's not always been easy at Bath City as manager. We've had a real tough year one year, and you dig deep. You just have to dig deep, and that's what I did. And I think it did. It was he knew if he'd left out David Holdsworth or John McCarthy, their senior players, they probably would have caused more of a problem than what Jerry Gill would have. And one thing he always said about me was, as long as he was in that football club, and you've probably read it, he'd always give me a contract. And
yeah, that's right.
listen, that like I said, it is what it is. It's one of those things, and I have regrets about not being so front foot in that regard sometimes. But I'm still really grateful for my career.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Of course, the Birmingham fans still think the world of you, and I know you get a great reception whenever you do get a chance to go back there. Why do you think that is, Jerry? Why do you think they love you so much?
I was just honest, Dave. I was a wholehearted player. In those days, there was a lot of interaction with fans. I lived in the area. If there was anyone who wanted to talk to me, I'd always talk to them. I'd always sign autographs. I'd do as many functions as I possibly could. But in the end, they judge you as a player as well. And if you've got all that, but you're not a good player, and I always do this. I always talk about myself, and I say, well, I wasn't the best player, but I played in the championship, so I must have been all right. And all I did was I gave my all, and I joke about smashing people. I enjoyed tackling. I enjoyed engaging in challenges and duels. I enjoyed going up for aerial battles. I enjoyed keeping clean sheets. I knew I had to be at the top of my game every day in training to even compete. So it wasn't that I could go in and have a relax. I could never have a beer on a Sunday and go in and train on a Monday and go, right, I can just get through it. There's not a hope in hell. I'd hardly ever drink. It wasn't, we'd go out and have Christmas nights and player days, and I'd drink. But other than that, I was such a dedicated professional. Sometimes a little bit too much. I remember on a Friday, I'd turn my phone off at lunchtime, wouldn't speak to anyone. I'd put myself in my apartment. I probably use a little bit too much nervous energy at the time and not relax enough. And I've learned that as well. But I think they saw an honest working class lad, which is what I am. I've been brought up by my parents we've never had lots of money, but we gave it everything we possibly could to try and do the best we could. And my dad and my mum have always given me core values, and I think I live by them. And I think people see that in you, and the working class people in Birmingham saw that in me. I'm just a down to earth, normal guy, was really appreciative of my career, and I was nowhere going to let it slip. And that meant that I'd give it everything I had. So I think that's what they saw in me, and they still see in me today, because we have groups of Blues fans coming down and watching games. I'll go up and I'll go and do functions at the club. And like you say, I'm well respected there. I want to go and do nothing better than going out and doing a pitch visit on a championship game if I can get up there in midweek and seeing the fans again. I think that's great. So that was just me, and that's me today. So that's what's always carried forward.
Yeah. Well, having left Birmingham after they secured promotion to the Premier League, you then got a move to Northampton, where you then picked up a pretty bad injury. Do you remember what happened with that?
Yeah, I had a really good time there. I went there, and it was a loan move to start with, Dave. And then again, I spoke to Steve Bruce, and he said, "Look, we can give you a little package to go." I had a contract left at Birmingham City, but also we know you can get a very good deal at Northampton, who were in League One at the time, going really well. People like Marco Gabbiatini, Martin Smith, good friend of mine, Paul Trollope, who I've gone on later to work with in my coaching career. So that's how we met, me and Paul. Paul came on loan from Fulham, which was Premier League, and I came from Birmingham. We were the ones sat at the front of the coach talking about football instead of playing cards,
Yeah.
eating bananas instead of eating crisps. So that was us. And yeah, I had a great time there. I went in there, obviously a bit of experience. Lovely place to go and play football. Great pitch at Six Fields. Yeah, a little bit of turmoil at the time in managers and the financial constraints on the club, ownership change. But I got offered a 2-year contract on the Easter Friday, I think it was. My agent had gone in, we'd shaken hands. And I thought, right, at 32 to get a 2-year deal at that level is going to be great. We then went to Tranmere away on the Easter Monday, I believe it was, Prenton Park, and yeah, literally a ball had come over my head. I turned, I've gone to nick it between someone's legs, and I felt my knee just jolt, and I thought that felt a bit strange. I carried on, and then another ball's gone over my head, and I've gone to turn. As I've turned, I've heard the loudest pop, and it felt as if my leg had gone over the stand and come back again. The most excruciating pain. I've never experienced anything like it in my life for 10 seconds. And then it went. And I thought, well, this is weird. I'd never had an injury, as you know. I'd never had an injury in my career, really. I was 32, then 33. And yeah, yeah, I'd ruptured my anterior cruciate ligament completely. Thought it was my hamstring, so I had this real bad pain in the back of my hamstring. So yeah, I got back, and a couple of things in this really, Dave. I got in to see Northampton. I said, look, obviously I've snapped my cruciate with a 2-year deal. And they said, what contract? We haven't offered you a contract. And this is where football becomes not such a good thing. You are a number in the end, and that's hard. I try not to treat my players this way. But yeah, they took the 2-year deal away. It wasn't there any longer because I hadn't signed it. A little bit of a lesson there. The first person on the phone was Steve Bruce. So he knew about it. He phoned me. Don't forget, I'd left Birmingham now. Yeah. And he said, right, with all due respect, you're not getting your surgery there. He said, you're not getting your physio there. I know you've gone on a permanent deal now. Tell the club that you're coming back and you're going to have Keith Porter, our surgeon, in the Nuffield in Birmingham to do it. And you're going to be rehabilitated by Neil McDermott, who was the first team physio at Birmingham City. So you get a chance to come back and play. 32, wow. In 2002, when you snap your cruciate, most people would say, that's it, game over. You're not going to come back from that. Because it's not like it is now. It was different rehabilitation from a cruciate. I see people coming back now within 8 months. And the surgery was different. So that tells you what Steve Bruce is like as a man. That's what I was saying. So I went back to Birmingham, had my surgery. I was out for near on a year. I tried to come back at Northampton. Colin Coldwood coming in manager. He said, come and play a game at Villa, practice match, and see if we can give you a deal. I was limping. I knew I wasn't carrying my gait well. I just wasn't doing myself any justice. And he's come up. I said, look, I know the answer. I'm not in a position where you can give me a contract. Not a chance. I'll go. A lot of bad feeling, not with Colin, but bad feeling with the club then. So I thought I need to go. Yeah. And then I went and watched the Birmingham City. This is football. Birmingham City reserve game. My friend Martin Granger playing. And John Ward come and sits next to me. Having been Wolves manager, was now Cheltenham Town manager. He said, all right, Jerry. I said, hello, John. He said, what? I'm seeing you've gone off the scene. I said, yeah, cruciate injury. I'm ready now. I can train. He said, come to Cheltenham. He said, come down and train. I can't give you a deal, obviously. Well, 5 years later, 210 games later, I'd captained the team, got promotion from League 2 to League 1, and probably again had some of my best football ever in my career at a little club that was perfect for me at that time. And yeah, I had a wonderful time at Cheltenham Town.
Yeah, it's funny how football works, isn't it, Jerry?
Yeah.
I mean, after a bad injury like that, did you find yourself? I mean, obviously, he was extremely successful at Cheltenham Town, but did you have to mentally or physically adjust the way that you played after having an injury like that?
Yeah, because I was obviously getting 32, 33 as well. Your legs aren't quite as they used to be. But I rebuilt myself basically. There was never gym programs. We did a little bit at Birmingham. There was never sports science. No one really spoke about diet too much. We had a little bit in the championship, but not too much. As you said, it was before big sponsorship come through. So resources weren't definitely like they are now. Yeah. We weren't even GPSed in the championship, you see, at Birmingham City those days. So, but yeah, I did. I battered the gym. I literally made myself the strongest I could be. So my quads were huge. My diet was really good. I did loads of, we called it Rambo runs, which are proprioception runs. We'll go over fences and fields and go out for miles, little knowing that while you're doing that, you're working all your joints in your body and your knees getting used to going on terrain that isn't used to usually going on terrain. So you're building a strength in your knee, really old school, but very, very good. And I was doing 3 sessions a day at Birmingham. I was in at 7:30 in the morning. I'd then break and have a bit of breakfast. I'd then do a session then up until lunchtime. And then I'll be back in the gym in the afternoon doing a 3rd session. And I'd even gone home. I'd got a roller skate and I'd attached some weights to a roller skate. So when I'm sat watching the TV, I'm lifting my leg up, doing leg raises. So I'm at home. So I'm thinking I need to even be on
Yeah,
top of myself when I'm at home.
yeah,
And that was my mentality.
yeah. And was there any long-term side effects to it? Can you feel it today?
Brilliant. Touch wood, Dave. It feels absolutely great. I haven't got a 90-degree bend on it. That's the one thing I didn't quite get, but you wouldn't notice it. Um, but yeah, to this day, it's as strong as ever. It feels absolutely
Yeah, brilliant.
magnificent. A lot to thank Keith Porter for, the surgeon, and obviously Birmingham City and Steve Bruce and Neil.
Yeah,
He put me through some paces. I mean, I remember coming out of the gym on those third sessions, and you couldn't feel any fitter. That's my big thing. Is I think it's on my Wikipedia. I think my strap line is pretty much, there's no better feeling than coming off a training ground and you know at your peak fitness. You can't get any fitter than what you are. That feeling is incredible. That feeling I miss. I do a lot of running now, as you know, still. But that feeling of being the best you possibly can physically is irreplaceable. It's the best feeling in the world.
yeah. So at what point did you start thinking about management and how did you actually carve out your career? What happened next?
Well, even at Birmingham, when I was rehabilitating, the college program was starting to do some little bits. Obviously, that time in between and going to Cheltenham. And then when I got to Cheltenham, I was talking a lot to John and Keith Downer as a coach. I didn't realize I was. I was a senior player, but I was talking a lot about system, style of play, a lot of stuff around defensive, um, individual work, specific work. Really took an interest in Keith Downer on a Thursday, take us and do an individual and unit group around defending. I really helped him out in that. So I was starting to do it. And I guess I was doing it then in games. So in games, I'm now coaching my right back in front of me or my centre back into the side of me. And I was starting to develop that already. And yeah, I got an opportunity to do some coaching with the younger age groups. And I thought, you know what? I never thought about it before. I'd set up a kit company, believe it or not. I'd worked with Araya, an Italian kit brand, which is what we've got at Bath City Football Club.
Yeah,
I took over the contract at Cheltenham of the club shop. So after training, I was going to the club shop, see what the takings was, making sure everything's all right. I used it as a fitting centre for all the local colleges and schools and football clubs and become like a figurehead for them, if you like. So it wasn't too much time for coaching. I was going back to the Midlands. I had a unit where I had my embroidery shop, and things were getting sent out in boxes. I was literally taping up boxes and sending it out. So I was so
yeah,
busy. But then at the end of my Cheltenham career, when John had gone and Martin Allen had come in and it just wasn't for me, I got an opportunity to go to Forest Green Rovers and work under Jim Harvey as player coach. And I was 39 then. And
yeah,
that's when it all started, really. I was taking sessions every single day in the conference, making it up because no one told me what to do. I'd gone through my qualifications, but no one told me really
yeah.
how you take a session, making loads of mistakes. They talk about it now, that team. I ran them a lot. I ran them a lot. Even the warm up was a run. It was a 12-minute run. But yeah, I guess I wanted them like me. And yeah, I got the real bug for it then and the real fix. And I had a good time at Forest Green. That ended with a big injury. I shattered my face, my eye socket and my cheekbone in 3 places. And I've got a plate in my face now. So that was the time where I thought, you know what? That was in the conference. It's probably time to call it a day, Jerry. You got to
Yeah.
focus now on a bit of coaching. So and that's where I went into my coaching properly then.
Well, like we said at the beginning of the interview, you've done a great job at Bath City, securing 3 playoff positions in 6 seasons, playing some great football and having signed some great players as well. But Jerry, you mentioned that obviously you're a part-time club. What are some of the challenges you face in the National League South, where more and more clubs are becoming full-time or hybrid?
Mm. Well, that's it, Dave. Absolutely, it's that. It's the contact time, really. I wouldn't ever say it's fitness because we get a good opportunity now, and players are different at this level. They do a lot. That we say to them, it's not enough to do a Tuesday and Thursday with us. So the lads I know would have been doing recovery sessions yesterday. They'll do something in between a gym session. I've got a really good staff behind me, good sports scientist in Aaron Hopkinson. I've got Lee and Sarah, with my physios, as you know, good assistant in Jim Barron, and John Hell works out on the road for me, helps us in recruiting players. Um, so the hardest thing really is trying to get as much detail as you can in 2 nights into them. You haven't really got time for too much individual specific work or unit work. We haven't got a squad of 20 players, so we're not doing 11v11. So there's a lot of it phase work. So you're flipping it around and doing some work on the defensive side and then flip it and do some attacking patterns. Um, we pride ourselves in doing a lot of work around analysis. We've got a wonderful company who support us, Red Zone Analysis, who are based in Bath. We work with a lot of top Premier League clubs, working now in the European Championships and with FIFA. We thankfully have them as a sponsor and do my post and pre-match presentations with discussions with me. So a lot of that's done remotely with players. We do it on, as we are now, on Teams or on a Zoom. Maybe talk to the group before we see them. So yeah, and other than that, we think we give our players everything they possibly could have. We pride ourselves in it. They're kitted out. They get GPS, and we say as long as all they've got to worry about is that ball on a Saturday or Tuesday, we've done our job. And like I said, even though we're not the biggest club in the league in regards of being full time or hybrid, we feel like we are when you turn up on a Saturday. We know we've done things properly. We know teams when they play Bath City, they know they're coming up against a team who's been prepared. And as long as my players feel prepared, I think we've done our job.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a miracle, really. I mean, you've got some teams in the division who have a full-time analyst who are watching 20 games a week,
Yeah,
able to watch 10 games of your opposition. I
yeah.
mean, for you personally, Jerry, I know you're an extremely busy person yourself. How do you kind of manage your work-life balance? Or is that a silly question? Is it impossible to do that?
Well, it is. It isn't. I mean, listen, I've got interests away from it. I do some work with my brother and I help my brother out as well. Just in the process of trying to set up something around coaching in schools and things as well. So, yeah, I put a lot of time to my Bath City stuff as well. I have to say, Dave, as you know. So we're fortunate enough to have Y Scout and Huddle,
Yeah.
so we get an opportunity to watch every. I mean, find it
Yeah.
unbelievable, really, to think back on my time as a player. To think someone could put your name in and then suddenly all your clips suddenly come up on a
Yeah. Yeah.
laptop as we are now is just mental. So a lot of detail goes into that. You know, we or I try and involve my staff as much as I can. I get a lot of support, so I don't do it on my own. As I said, those lads, Jim will be now thinking about how we played in this behind closed doors game on Saturday. He'll be writing down some notes on individuals, what we think we might want to do Tuesday. In terms at the moment, it's just about balancing minutes alongside Aaron, our sports scientist. So yeah, I don't really sleep that well. I'm not a big sleeper. Hours of sleep are not a lot. I get enough to be healthy and feel good, but yeah, I'm constantly thinking about football still, and it will always be that. It will always be that. Yeah, I think as long as I'm healthy and I feel fit, I want to stay in the game as long as I possibly can. I'm loving my time at Bath. I wake up every morning. I look forward to it. The minute you don't do that, Dave, in any line of work, I think it's time to call it a day. But we've got some unfinished business still, I believe. You know, we feel like we still can go one further. The challenges get ever harder, really do.
Yeah.
But we also know as I said to you before, we need an FA Cup run. I really want to deliver that for the club if I can.
Yeah. And of course, on top of preparing, the staff and the team for match days and looking at the opposition, obviously, there's a lot of work that goes into scouting players as well.
Yeah,
What does that process look like? Because you've signed some incredible players at the club, Cody Cook, Ewan Clark, some really, really top talent.
yeah.
How much work goes into to sort of scouting and researching a player before you actually sign on the dotted line?
Well, you live and die by it, Dave. This is the biggest thing. So I could be the best coach in the world, and I don't proclaim to be at all. Well, I could be, we could have the most money in the world as a budget. That doesn't always work. The type of more and more the type of person you sign first and foremost, your character to fit into the way your environment is massive. So they have to first and foremost want to come into Bath City Football Club. I meet every single player and meet them for a coffee, and I might meet them for 2 or 3 now. You do your due diligence on them. Players can always play a game, and I've made a couple of mistakes over the years. When you sit in front of them, they can be someone who they're not, and you have to go careful with that. So obviously looking around and talking to as many people who know them is massive. But in the end, it's your eye as well. So as I said, I've got John who goes out and watches games for me, but I'll identify players and I'll probably do it 2 or 3 years in advance. And that might sound really weird, but I was chatting to Cody Cook 2 years before I signed him. I was chatting to Elliot Freer 2 years before he signed him. And I'll tell you why, because the West Country is a place where players will have to move away for their football careers. And I did it because it's always been a sleepy little place where football's never been at the forefront, really. We've got some big clubs here like Bristol City and Bristol Rovers, but they've always underachieved. They've never got to a level where people always think they should. And they miss out on a lot of players as well. And I was one of them. I never played for Bristol City or Bristol Rovers, but there's a lot of players that are like that who have gone away. So players move away for their careers. So I look at them So I'll go, right, okay, I've got one at the moment who's played in Scotland for 4 years that I'm talking to, that I spoke to 2 years ago, that I'm trying to get the deal done for him because he's come back to this area. So it's really important I stay on that and I understand where these players are and where they're playing. And I
Yeah.
want to try and build a team that's local with that. So my radius, I can't go into London because I can't compete with all the London teams in budgets, Dave. I can't. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And we can't
Yeah.
afford to put them in hotels. We can't
Yeah.
afford to give them a full-time program. So they're not going to come and live here and pay money to live here because we can't give them that sort of salary. So it's really, if you look at my catchment area, it's up until Oxford and then it's just across South Wales and then down to Devon. I'm not going to go across any further than that. So a lot of my team we've got an Exeter car, we've got South Wales, and the rest of them are all North Somerset, Somerset, Bath area, Oxford, and that's it. We're not going to go outside of that. So it's a map that's visually in my mind. And we've signed one, Latrell Humphrey Ewers from Oxford City, who's a 20-year-old who I believe has got sell-on value, is the right character for us. Will only get better and develop, lot to learn, but will develop with us. And Jordan Thomas is a shining example last year. One of the best players
Yeah.
in the league. I got him
Yeah.
from North Lee. I watched him on a Tuesday night. There's a lot of hours that people don't see. I drove to Plymouth on a Tuesday night in February, freezing cold. He played for North Lee against Plymouth Parkway. They got relegated, North Lee, the team he was in. They weren't a good side. He touched the ball 6 times, but I signed him because I'd seen him live and I saw moments which I believed would be good. Well, he hit the ground running with us. You get a bit of
Yeah.
luck with it as well.
Yeah.
We sold him to
Yeah.
Cheltenham in the January window. So the answer in all of this is so much work,
Yeah.
so much driving, so much talking to players, so much talking to people, watching video clips. But no better thing than watching them live, Dave. You have to watch them live, and you have to speak to them and get a good idea on how they are as characters.
Yeah. Jerry, I don't know if you've ever had a play with Football Manager before, but there'll be loads of your fans that, would be playing it at home as Bath City manager, would have taken him into a Champions League, would have
Right.
signed all sorts of players. And
Yeah.
of course, he's got a huge database and there's like all sorts of wonder kids on there as well. I remember Freddie Adu, I don't know if you know who that is, an
Yeah.
American
Yeah. Yeah.
young
Yeah.
kid from years ago who, was supposed to have been the next big thing through Football Manager. Have you ever played it? And also, have you ever looked at the database on it to see who the next up and coming players are?
No, I've seen plenty of fans when we're not going saying they want to replace me because they've been brilliant on Football Manager and they're in the Champions League. No, it's not. It's not something. I'm not really a games gizmo, Dave. Yeah. I've never been one to sit down and play PlayStation or Xbox or. I'm an outdoor person, so I love my
Yeah.
golf. I love doing any sport. I go out running. I'd rather go running than go to a gym. I do go to a gym, but I'd rather go outside and do it. I do some work with my brother who works outside, so we work outside. Coaching obviously is outside, so I'm not one. Obviously, a lot of hours are spent on this at times with Y Scout. I try and limit my time as much as I can, but I think it's great. I mean, listen, it helps the layman understand in a certain way, I guess, of what we try and do and go through. But you only dip your toe in it. You don't really
Yeah.
see. It's from what I can see, it's a fluffy version of what a manager's life is really like
Right.
because
Yeah.
you don't get that interaction with players one to one and trying to trying to trying to pick a team on a Saturday and then you got 1,500 fans behind you going take him off and you've got it wrong and then you get all the other stuff of course as well. You get the adulation of all that as well. So yeah, football managing and football coaching life there's so much that people don't see that goes on behind the scenes is all I would say.
Yeah.
People see you at the moment 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon. It's far from just 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. There's so much into it, and you've got to be a little bit, I don't know, a little bit warped, I guess, to do it because it's a tough old world and it's never easy. And like I said, you only get very, very small amounts of highs. I've been lucky to get 4 promotions in my career as a player,
Yeah.
one with Western, one with Yeovil, and one with Birmingham as well, which was really, really good. And that one was wonderful, obviously. But it's not, the life of a manager is tough at times. It really is tough. You get some real lonely, dark moments as well. I know I come across bubbly, happy, energetic, and I am genuinely trying to be like that. But I'm not going to hide away from the fact that sometimes I get some real
Yeah.
dark moments and some real lonely moments because that's the job. And I'm lucky that I've got a club behind me as well who have stayed really loyal to me. Like I said, we've had some moments where it's been a bit tricky. I think we're on 43% win ratio, and there's so many things outside of just the football itself you see that's good at our club. Um,
Yeah.
and they're a great club to work for, and I thankfully have got good people behind me as well.
Yeah. You mentioned some key people in your life, and you've got a key experienced assistant manager in Jim Barron, who you've mentioned before. How important has he been to you
Massive.
in all that you're doing at the club, Jerry?
Yeah, massive. Yeah, he's my calm, if you like, I guess. He's the one who has been there, seen it, done it. I mean, listen, this guy's worked under Doug Ellis, working with Ron Atkinson. He's worked at Birmingham City as assistant manager, first team coach, and then manager. He's worked at Crystal Palace doing the same. He was the first goalkeeper in the country, first goalkeeping coach in the country to coach Neville Southall, the best goalkeeper in the
Yeah.
world at the time, and knows and has seen everything in football. So it's not just the bits again in a match day; it's all the other stuff. So he'll know understand the emotion I'm going through. He will spot and identify when I'm feeling a little bit down. He will know when I need a pick me up. He will also know when I need a bit of a rollicking. And he'll
Yeah.
also not always say, yes, Jerry, that's right. Me and Jim, we'll not rarely agree. We don't agree all the time. That's really healthy and really important. I need
Yeah.
someone to challenge me alongside me. I need someone to say, think about this, not that. And I might come up with a decision in the end that I want to stay with. And Jim respects that. But we challenge each other, I like to think. And we've got that respect because he respected me massively as a player. And he even said it to the players on day one, actually. He said that he was a manager and a coach, and he worked with someone who wasn't the best player in the world, but was the fittest and the best professional he's ever worked at. And if he'd got another job after Birmingham or Palace, he would have taken him, and that was me. And he said, if you can get close to being how he is as a professional, you'll give yourself the best chance. Jim's exactly the same. I worked under Jim, and Jim would take me out and do extras in the afternoons because he wanted to improve me, he cared about me, and he wanted me to give him my best chance in my career. It wasn't about him. No one saw that in the afternoons when
Yeah.
everyone's gone home at 3 o'clock. It was me and him out with
Yeah.
a bag of balls on a windy training ground trying to improve me. I
Yeah.
thank him a lot for that. And he's doing the same now as a manager. So if my emotional control wavers a little bit, he'll pull me in and help me with things. So he's invaluable. How he's still doing it, he looks unbelievable. He looks about 50. He's fit, he's healthy, touch wood, and he's wonderful for me and for our football club. So I'm really grateful to have Jim alongside me. You've met him; he's a
Another
great
man.
guy.
Yeah, he's lovely, lovely guy. Another man that I know has had a big impact on your career is your dad. Tell
Yeah.
us about him, Jerry.
Oh wow, my dad tried to without getting emotional. Yeah, my dad was a lorry driver. Back in the day, growing up, as I said, we didn't know sob story here at all. We didn't have a lot, but we worked really hard. We grafted. We were middle class. We were working class. Sorry, family. I've got an older brother, a younger sister, and my mum. Mum and dad have always had a routine. They're still together after 58 years, whatever it may be. Um, and they've always had a routine. Every Saturday, dad would go to football, mum would go shopping. That's never
Yeah,
changed. So there's a real good understanding there. Mum knows that dad's gone and she's lost him for that. And poor soul will go around there in a minute for a cup of tea, and he's walking around like a bear with, a caged bear, tiger, up and down because he hadn't had his football fix yet. He's going to get that
yeah,
Tuesday night. So he's my biggest critic. You'll hear a lot of players say this about their fathers. Biggest critic. I've never had a good game under dad. He's always said, yeah, you've done all right there, son, which I know I've played unbelievable. If I've done all right, I've played unbelievable. He will always challenge me after games. He will sit. He hates people talking to him in games. He will sit, observe, and watch. He will not be talking. He doesn't want to go in director's box. He doesn't want to go and do all the prawn sandwich stuff. My dad will get there at 1 o'clock. He will walk around and talk to all the stewards. He'll get himself a burger and a cup of tea, and he'll watch all the warm up and he'll watch all the game. Everyone knows my dad. Um, they love my dad. He's a real down to earth guy who just loves life and loves football. That's his life, and he's brought us up the right way. That's all I'll say. My brother and my sister,
yeah.
we've been brought up the right way with good values. And yeah, one day unfortunately he won't be there, but at the moment I love every moment he is. I try and take him when I'm, those games on a Tuesday night. He'll come with me.
Yeah.
So I'll pick him up and I'll take him out. I took him to the National League final to Wembley and sat him in the plush seats, and he couldn't believe his luck. We'd gone in, and I was chatting to all the other managers, my friend Mark White at Dorking and Steve King, who are really good friends of mine, wonderful friends of mine. And these are proper football people, and they love my dad. You speak to Mark White about my dad. My dad went down to Dorking when it was first time around, before Dorking had gone up. And Mark said, "Is your dad here?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to get him." So he went and found him. He took him, gave him a free burger, free cup of tea, looked
Yeah.
after him. He's asking now, when you're coming down, I hope your dad's coming down with you. So these are the things in football really that mean everything, Dave.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest. This is what football's all about.
Yeah.
Football's about football's about people. Football's about building relationships and keeping those relationships. It's hard at times because you move on. Football moves on. People move on. But my dad's been my constant, and wherever I've been, my dad's been. And yeah, I love him dearly. He's been brilliant for me.
That's very special, and you're right. They're lovely people at Dorking, Chris and Mark, and you
Oh,
guys
brilliant.
as well. You've all got the gift of hospitality, and
Yeah.
you guys made us feel very welcome when we come down to you as well, Jerry. You're
It's
good people.
important. It's so important, Dave. Honestly, if people come to our football club, we want them to have a really good match day experience. Whether that's an opposition, of course, you want to make it hard for you to win because we want to win,
Yeah,
and sometimes we're a little bit nice with that. And I do challenge my club with that sometimes. Don't make it as nice as we can for the opposition on match day,
yeah, right, right. Yeah,
but people around it, we will. So when you came down, we want to look after you. When the directors and staff outside of that playing group come down, we'll look after them,
yeah,
and we pride ourselves on that. We really do. And a lot of people go away and talk about us in the way you're talking about us. So,
yeah,
and I think that's important. So, football in the end is an entertainment business. It's not life or death. And I know one great manager who I do support, Liverpool, said that once. Um, but it means a hell of a lot to us. You know, football's our life. We live and breathe it. But in
yeah,
the end, it is football, and people are more important.
yeah,
People, and building those relationships. I love what I've had through football because of that. And
yeah,
I've met a lot of good people, and they're long term friends now. And even through my job now, some clubs I'll turn up to, and it won't be so popular. But a lot of other clubs, I get welcomed. And even if I have that banter with the opposition, do you know what? I love that because that's what it's all about, right?
yeah,
It's tribal. It's about one team trying to beat the other one. And if it doesn't become personal, I always say that if it can be that rivalry on the terraces and with me and a bit of banter, I love it. I love it. That's what I'm all about. But when it becomes personal and
yeah,
it steps over that mark, that's that's gone too far, and that's not right. And hopefully this season we'll have a lot of games where it's good old battles where one team's trying to beat the other, and the fans enjoy the games. That's the most important. Fans turn up, enjoy the games, and we all go away and we're all healthy and we've had a good old time on a Saturday or a Tuesday.
You've already mentioned Dorking Wanderers, and I'm sure you'll already be looking ahead at the season,
Yeah,
ahead. And when you look at the clubs that have already come down and the clubs that come up last year, do you think it's going to be an easier or a tougher division next season, Jerry?
tougher. I think it's tougher, Dave. I mean, obviously, rumours go around with the money being spent, and you've only got to guess and see. Well, you can see the types of
Yeah,
players some of these sides are signing. You know, Dorking, of course, Mark, and he's quite bullish in it. And he's interviewed, "I'm going to win the league. No one's going to be better than
yeah,
us." All that stuff, which is great. I know Mark inside out, and yeah, he knows he'll get a good game against us when we play him. I'm looking forward to going down and seeing him for sure. They'll be really tough. They'll have a clear identity. They always do, and be really hard to play against. Maidstone will be strong, full-time outfit
yeah,
again. Your respawn we spoke about. I think I've got a lot of respect for Adam as a coach. I had a good chat with him after we played him last year. He's built his squad now on a full-time basis. Hornchurch, the amount of money they're
yeah,
spending down there is crazy. And I can go on really. I mean, I counted the other day. I think there was between eight and nine teams that are either full-time or hybrid in our league, and that's tough. That's tough in itself.
yeah,
So of course we got the local rivals, Torquay down the road. Yeovil had gone out of it. Mark done a great job and got them up. The pressure's on Torquay. They're a full-time outfit. They thought they were going to be part-time. Paul's gone in there and pressure's on them. We've lost a
yeah,
couple of players to them. That's always a challenge when there's a big club that's full-time local to us. Um, but they've got to deliver because they're training every day and they'll be playing in front of. I think I saw they've sold 1,300 season tickets already.
yeah,
They'll be playing in front of 4,000 every week, and that becomes another pressure which we love going into. So
yeah,
yeah, tough league, Dave. Really will be again. but we feel, and as you know, I haven't put a hand grenade into our squad the last couple of years. This is probably coming into 2-3 year cycle of what we were trying to do. Just tweak it, add a few in, and I feel like we can have a real competitive season again that we're really looking forward to.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, I'm sure that there are plenty of clubs keeping an eye on you personally. How ambitious are you? Do you ever dream to go on and manage at a higher level at some point in the future?
Of course, yeah. Listen, first and foremost, and we all say it. I want to try and deliver something here at Bath. I feel like, I walk away now, and it sounds a bit corny. I feel like I've made change, and the club's probably in a better place than it was when we first came in. And I'm not saying I want that end by no means, but I have got ambitions to try and go on. I'd love to have a go at it full time. I haven't had an opportunity to do that yet. I'd love to work with players on a full time daily basis and challenge myself. I've been fortunate enough to come through all my qualifications whilst working in Category 1 academies at Norwich City, well, Bristol Rovers first, then Norwich City, and then Wolves, working under Chris Hughton and Paul Trollope, and going as far as I possibly can as a 23s manager in the country, and helping and developing a load of players that I look back on and think, well, that was a really good part of my life as well, that I was a small part of what they've done. People like Todd Cantwell, Morgan Gibbs-White, the Murphy brothers from Norwich, Colton Morris. And even the ones who are playing, like Elliot Watt, playing at Salford last year and has got a move in the summer. The ones who are in the lower leagues that have still gone and got careers. Michi Affetti, who had gone to Grimsby and then got a move to Ross County, battling for a contract to be a pro at Norwich City, but got one and deserved it because he had a work ethic. So, yeah, I've had some wonderful experiences as a coach and gone as far as I could. That's why I wanted to go in the senior. I had a brief spell in India before I became Bath City manager in Delhi. And that was a wonderful life experience working in the American embassy and coaching. So the time was right for me to have a go at senior stuff. And yeah, let's see where we go. I am really ambitious. I know I've got a lot to offer, and hopefully we'll have another wonderful season at Bath City Football Club with that cup run, Dave. That's what we want, and then see where we are at the end of this campaign as well.
Yeah, brilliant, Jerry. Well, we're going to take a very quick break before coming back to ask you the final signature from the club questions. Jerry, as you know, as a business, we're all about official signed memorabilia. So these last few questions are all memorabilia related. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
Jerry, have you ever asked anyone for their autograph in person before? And if so, who?
Autograph. Oh, crikey. I don't think I have, I've not, I haven't. No, I've asked for shirts, but you'll probably come on to that in a different question. So, no, I can't remember. No. I wanted to many a time. I mean, Kevin Keegan was my all-time hero, 1970s, playing for Liverpool. Yeah. Yeah, I got to meet him once. And then Graham Souness came down with his Newcastle team in the FA Cup when we played at Cheltenham. And I was on the physio bed getting a leg rub. And he walked past in the physio room. And I was so desperate to either talk to him or just ask for something. And I sort of went, ugh, and I just couldn't get my word down. So, no, I don't think, I'm trying to think back now. I don't think there's been anyone where I've actually physically gone across and said, can I have your autograph? Which I wish I had.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about those shirts. What memorabilia do you own? And if so, what's your favourite pieces?
I've got a Michael Owen shirt, which is one of my favourite ones. Obviously, I was a Liverpool fan, and having played against him at Anfield in front of 43,000. Patrick Berger, this is a bit of a funny one from the Worthington Cup final. So I've got his Worthington Cup final shirt. He was left out on the day as well, so was I. So we swapped shirts on the day of that one. I've got a good teammate of mine, and this is Stan Lazaridis was one of my teammates at Birmingham City, and we went across at the time, me and Vicky, to watch him in the World Cup qualifier in Australia, playing for Australia against New Zealand in Sydney, and I got his World Cup Australian shirt as well, signed by Stan. Wow. which I he was a very good friend of mine at Birmingham City. So lovely guy. Ended up going to his little daughter's Greek Orthodox christening, which was a lovely experience as well. So talking about friends in football, those sort of things and those memories. And and many, many more in the box actually. So, but those are the ones that I cherish dearly. And as you know, you've done a couple of pictures which are
Yeah,
really close to my heart.
yeah. If you could have anyone's autograph, you've already mentioned Kevin Keegan. Anyone's autograph, dead or alive, who would you have and why?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kevin would be one because I just built my career on him. He was Kevin Keegan, believe it or not, was just the ultimate professional, and he said it. He built himself. He was like a Ronaldo of today. He built himself into a machine so that he was as fit. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember. He went into All Stars, which was a old sports show years and years ago. Back he competed in the All Stars, which was televised. So they have all these retired sports people come on. They compete on a Friday night or whatever night it was, and things like cycling and running and swimming. And Brian Jacks was the guy back in the days. And you're way too young for this, Dave. But Kevin Keegan went onto a cycle track competing, and they had a little race bike, and they were all sports people. He had one of the most horrific accidents at Bracknell in the leisure centre you've ever seen on a bike. It was on like red gravel, and he went and he gave it. It wasn't like he was competing in some charity thing. This was a real competitive sporting event, and he went as fast as he could. And the bike was wobbling, and he spun off and he slid right across, and he cut all his skin down, his legs, his shoulder, his face. And if you Google it, Kevin Keegan bike accident, it's horrific. But that was Kevin Keegan. So he gave himself the best chance in everything he did. And I guess he would be the one. I've never been one for like Tiger Woods or people like that, even though these people have been the pinnacle of their career and the best of what they've done. I always admire people from the outset. I said to you, I gave football everything I possibly could. I
Yeah,
admire people that give it their best. I don't admire people that have got the talent but don't give it their best. And sometimes they rely on that talent rather than their work ethic. So,
right.
um, yeah, it may not be a popular one, but Kevin Keegan for sure.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, Jerry, I tell you what, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure spending some time with you this morning. I'm so grateful for your time.
Cheers,
Thank you
Dave.
so much. Before I let you go, do you have any closing thoughts? And also let everyone know how they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, I mean, listen, mate, it's a pleasure. I got to meet you, Dave, and a big shout out for your company here in Memorabilia and what you do for former players. I mean, for you to identify first off and make contact with me and say, is there anything you'd like done? And for the listeners in that Dave had been in, it's on my wall now. I'm looking up. I've got a picture of myself and Michael Owen, which had the cop in the background, but it's done in Dave's real quirky, unique way. Framed picture. I've got a picture at the Millennium Stadium where I'm lifting up the league or the playoff trophy final, and the joy on my face. These are things I wouldn't normally get to see. And another aerial battle, which it looks like I've jumped about 20 foot in the air. So, no, listen, I think it's a wonderful thing you've done. I think this is great. That gives managers and ex-players an opportunity to share their experiences in their life as well. Highly recommend any players or any managers going through yourself, your company to get anything done because it's wonderful work and really unique and fantastic and great quality. And for me, yeah, I'm all over. I'm over Twitter and over Instagram. You'll find me just put in Jerry Gill. You'll find it. I don't know what the. I'm not big on social media, so you'll find me. I don't. I'm not on Facebook and bits like that, but I like to be interactive on my social media in regards of Twitter. Not so much on my Instagram, but definitely on Twitter. And I promote my club as much as I can. That's what it's all about. It's in the end, it's about Bath City Football Club and not just me. I'd like to finish on that. That you know, my career is my career, and my career now as a manager is my career. I couldn't do it without the support I've had, whether that's family, partners, my two sons who are phenomenal. Honestly, I'm so proud of my two boys, Morley and Oscar, and everyone today at Bath City Football Club, from Paul Williams, my football chair, to all the support staff around. They make what you see here. So, and the fans, of course, the Romans are great. Whenever we step out at Twerton Park, they're brilliant, and long may that continue.
Well, Jerry, you're a top man and you're at a great club. And I'll make sure that I find your Twitter handle in your Instagram link as well. And that'll be in the
That
description
helps.
below so that you can go and follow Jerry and go and say hello. Jerry, thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, Dave. Thanks for having me on, mate.
Thanks.